Now to our weekly World Wrap segment. I'm joined by Sky News foreign coordinator Brent O'Halloran. Brent, can you give us a snapshot of the global battle against COVID-19? Which countries are doing well and what trends are we seeing?
Well, let's start with a potential cure. There was some positive news out of the UK this week. Clinical trials for a potential COVID-19 vaccine are underway in Britain. 2 volunteers were the first people in the world to be injected with a potential vaccine, this one created at Oxford University. Now let's now hear from one of those volunteers who's taking a bit of a personal risk for the good of the world, basically. Let's hear from him now.
Well, I'm a scientist, so of course I want to try and support science, the scientific process, whenever I can. And since I don't study viruses, I felt a bit useless these days, so I felt like this is a very easy way for me to support the cause.
The head of the research team says she's very optimistic it will be a success, and I reckon the whole world has their fingers crossed that it is. There's around 100 potential vaccines in development around the world. At least 5 of those are in phase 1 clinical trials. In terms of infection rates, pretty much all nations are trending downward. Now let's very quickly put up a few graphics to illustrate this. This global tracker from Johns Hopkins shows there's a mini spike in US cases at the very top of the graph there in green, but otherwise trends are pretty good. Zooming in now to the second graphic, and you can see that the major nations in Europe are plateauing or going down, which is great news. But leaders there aren't being too quick in relaxing the lockdowns most nations are currently in. Now that, Peter, is a very superficial snapshot, but there's a lot in that picture to be pretty positive about.
Now, Brent, there's a lot of negative news regarding the outbreak in the US, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right, Peter. The US has recorded around 50,000 deaths, actually more than 50,000 deaths, which is more than any other nation. Experts there predict thousands more may die in the coming weeks. The US House of Representatives today passed another $480 billion relief package, which will allow for a significant increase in COVID-19 testing. Now, more testing, of course, means that authorities are more likely to contain outbreaks and prevent deaths. It should be noted there's quite a bit of anger at these multi-billion-dollar bailouts from labour unions and some economic commentators. Critics say it's worse than the 2009 bailout, saying that US leaders are now giving trillions to big businesses, some of whom don't need it, while shafting average Americans. Remember, Peter, 26 million Americans have filed for unemployment since the pandemic began, a level not seen since the Great Depression. Meanwhile, thousands have been protesting the social distancing restrictions meant to curb the spread of the virus. Rallies were held in several states this week, and let's now hear from some of those protesting.
America's built on freedom, and that's what we need back. We need our freedom back. We need to get back to work.
We've turned this into an anxiety-prone political discussion.
The economic impact is more dangerous than the virus when you are locking everything down.
And Peter, today President Trump put forward a novel method for killing the novel coronavirus. He suggested sunlight or UV light may be effective. Now here's his explanation for that atypical treatment.
I would like you to speak to the medical doctors to see if there's any way that you can apply light and heat to cure. You know, that if you could, and maybe you can, maybe you can't. Again, I say maybe you can, maybe you can't. I'm not a doctor, but I'm like a person that has a good, you-know-what.
Peter, US government researchers did find the virus loses potency when temperatures and humidity rise, but there's no concrete evidence as yet that you can kill COVID by simply sitting in the sun.
No doubt about him, the Trumpster. Now, Brent, this week there have been rumours of Kim Jong-un's death.
That's right, Peter, and those rumours have been greatly exaggerated, it seems. Of course, it's difficult to speak with much certainty regarding anything to do with the North Korean leader, or indeed anything going on inside the hermit nation. It is understood the 36-year-old underwent heart surgery earlier this month. Now, several US media outlets, quoting unnamed US intelligence sources, reported there were complications from that surgery. CNN said he was in grave danger, while a NBC reporter tweeted he was brain dead. Now, that tweet was later deleted, and officials in South Korea, Japan and China said there is no evidence to suggest Kim Jong-un is severely ill. This, Peter, is one in a long list of examples of why one shouldn't automatically trust reports quoting unnamed sources. It's also another example of the US media blindly accepting the word of a spy without proof or corroboration. This time, perhaps it was an incidental mistake, though many media commentators would suggest it's that sort of journalistic malpractice which brought us 3 years of uncorroborated Russia-Trump collusion conspiracy theories, which were peddled, of course, by the majority of US mainstream media outlets, Peter.
Brent O'Halloran, thank you for joining us tonight. And there it is, Journalism 101, Brent. Never, ever rely on unnamed sources. There's no doubt about that.